It's showtime, folks.
But first, dad jokes.
Raising kids seems really hard, which is why I am all in favor of putting your kid on a leash if you want to. Put your kid on a leash. I don't care. I've never seen a kid on a leash who didn't need that leash. The leash is always pulled taut. They're always reaching for a stranger's mouth. Put your kid on a leash. I don't understand a single argument against it. People are like, well, I don't want to put my kid on a leash because I want him to explore, right? I want him to be an explorer. You guys remember explorers, history's worst monsters? Why are we encouraging that? Maybe if Columbus's mom had put him on a leash as a kid, he wouldn't have spent his adulthood genociding everyone he met. Maybe that's a boundary you need to teach young. People are like, well, what happens when you take the kid off the leash and then they go crazy? And to that I say, I'm not gonna be there then. We're all at the airport now.
Wake up, Daddy.
What word do you use in place of fuck in front of your kids?
Oh, good question. I use the word fuck. So follow me for more parenting tips.
Oh, shut the fuck up! Fucking damn it. Oh, fucking damn it.
Anytime we can start off the show with that
Shut the fuck up!
is a good start to a show. Welcome to
man.
Dad's Home Podcast, episode number 308. And I saw that today on Facebook, and it just hit me as...
What word do you use in place of fuck in front of your kids?
Oh, good question. I use the word fuck.
Yeah,
So follow me for more parenting tips.
more parenting tips. Here at the Dad's Home Podcast, and cheers to that, everybody. Cheers to you, Chad.
Yes, cheers.
For both of us tonight. You're straight up mine in the form of a tequila sunrise. What tequila are you drinking right there?
So this is Los Cuneros, I think is the right way to say that. Long story short, a friend of mine is a minority investor in this tequila brand here in Central Texas, and it's basically like the horns in Spanish. So I think it's Los Cuneros. All of you Spanish speakers, please correct me because I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm going to go look it up later.
The gringos just
The
drink
gringos.
tequila. We don't speak tequila.
It's tequila. It's called the horns. Speak English, right?
No,
Yes.
they're right.
Yeah.
He's right about that. It's I think
Anyway.
we call it the horns. It's the tequila horns. So good time.
But yeah, there's obvious connection, right, to the local sports teams here.
Sure. Hook 'em horns.
Anyway, so we were at a dinner party recently and we're gifted a bottle, and
Nice.
it's pretty damn good.
Now, see, I feel like a dick. My wife was gifted a bottle from one of her clients, and that's what I tapped into for tonight. But I didn't even bother to look at the goddamn label.
It could be Cuervo. You don't know.
So no, it's definitely not, and it's a great tequila. And again, I don't want to knock Cuervo if they wanted to sponsor the show, but let's be honest, there are better tequilas out there. No.
There could be.
There's a lot better tequilas out there. Most of the tequilas out there are better than Cuervo. Let's just put that out there. Again, I'm open to hearing Cuervo's side of the story, but that said, it's a stellar tequila, and I wish I had the name, and Happy wants to run upstairs and go grab it and just talk about it. But I'll have it. I'll save it and bring it up. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes and have that in the show notes for later on. But it's a fantastic tequila as well. One of my favorites that I've had in the recent weeks. So I'm enjoying it. I just don't know what the name is because it was gifted to my wife. But
and tequila sometimes is just tequila, right? I
Sometimes.
order a margarita at a restaurant, and they sometimes will ask me like, "Hey, what do you prefer?"
Right,
and I got to make some shit up, right? Like, "Oh, I don't."
It's what do you got on the top shelf, and then
what's on the top shelf?
Yeah, that's my favorite. I'll have that.
That's right. That's right.
That'll be the good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good solid plan. I say stick with it. Welcome to the show. Coming up on the show today. In fact, let's just kind of get the scroll going there. Coming up on the show today, we are going to talk about the ick, which I didn't know had a name, but it's got a name, and apparently not only does it have a name, it's spreading like COVID, and it's spreading.
Oh shit!
To married people, apparently. So we will
man.
talk a little bit about the ick, as well as the parenting, because if there's one thing every parent has experienced on some level, it's hearing from either another parent. The worst possible scenario here is that you hear from somebody who's not a parent that wants to give you parenting advice, and you just shut the fuck up for all I care on that stuff.
Wait, come on. Where's our sound effect?
Oh, the shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's literally, if you're not a parent, that's it. There's no reason to be giving parenting advice. But occasionally you'll get the school teacher or the church parishioner that decides it's time to explain to you the way parenting should be done. And then you're stuck hearing some parenting tips, or worse yet, trends, which we all just fucking hate. From the phrase helicopter parents to, which it's moved on to
snowplow, bulldozer, tank. Yeah, you name it. Like, pick a vehicle.
We'll talk about some of the ones. And then, and I think freely, one good thing that Chad and I do here on the Dad's Home podcast is we're more than willing to make fun of ourselves when we're like, yeah, I do that. That
is amen. So yeah, there are definitely times, and we're going to talk about this list of parenting trends that everybody hates.
Yes.
And I looking through the list, I was like, yeah, I do that. I do that.
We do.
Yeah, we do. No, I do. And but there is really nothing worse than getting unsolicited parenting advice.
Right.
Really from anyone for that matter. Because it always feels like such a
well, first of all,
it's a dig.
It's not somebody who's like, hey, little known fact. There's no, again, I'm going to reference something that a lot of the younger parents, the younger dads aren't going to get, but Cliff Clavin was a character on Cheers, and Cliff Clavin was the postman on Cheers. And one of the famous things for Cliff Clavin was, hey, here's a little known fact. John Ratzenberger played Cliff Clavin, and he'd have these little known facts. Zero of these parenting trends and tips that come from other parents came from nowhere. They didn't pull them out of their ass like, oh, hey, did you know? Here's a little known fact. Nobody's doing that. It's all very judgy. So when somebody brings you one of these parenting tips / trends, it's because they're fucking judging you. And you've done something that either put whatever your action was, the way you treated your kid, or the way you dressed at the park, I don't know, whatever the fuck it was, caused them to go insta-judge on you. And they're about to let you know what you're doing wrong and that there's a right way to do it. And they somehow secretly know what that right way is. So
that's right.
That's when that's addressed to you.
I'm gonna throw this one on top of what you said. John Ratzenberger, folks, who was not only Cliff Clavin in Cheers, he has been in every single, and I'm not making this up, Pixar movie as a voice.
He has done something.
For you younger parents, go watch any Pixar movie, from Toy Story to Inside Out, and that is he's in there. So that's him.
Yep. It's what he does, and does so well. So we'll get into some of that on the way.
I would take unsolicited parenting advice from Cliff Clavin.
You would. Cliff Clavin's unsolicited parenting advice. He had such bad luck as a stand-up comic. Remember he did that, tried to do stand-up comedy as the postman stand-up comic, and the line at the end was, what's up with that? Like, his whole thing was, his punchline for every joke was, what's up with that? And then he goes, if I could be serious for a moment, world peace. What's up with that?
Unsolicited parent advice. What's up with that?
Parenting advice. Oh, now look, we will kind of counter that with a little bit of what it was like to be a parent in the 80s, because neither Chad or I were parents in the 80s, but we had parents in the 80s, and for what it's worth, we were parented, if that's what you want to call it. It's stuff now that you look back on and you're like, how the fuck did they get away with that? How are they not cited for some of this stuff? But we will bring it up and we'll discuss that coming up a little bit later here on the Dad's Home podcast.
And to be fair, that was also back when the ashtrays were in the armrest in the door and the back seat of the car.
Yeah.
So
they were built in everywhere. And yet, have you stumbled across a movie recently that was made, I'll just even say 30 years ago, and you're just like, oh shit, they allowed that then? Like, I So in going back in kind of bumping right up against this 80s parent thing, we talked to my daughter Charlie, my 17-year-old. We've been talking about movies here and there that we think she hasn't, if she hasn't seen it yet, she should definitely check it out. And one of the ones was on the heels of the death of Gene Hackman this past week. We were talking about she wanted to know who Gene Hackman was. So we're talking about, Superman, and I'm like, oh my God, one of the best Westerns ever made. And for those of you who love Westerns, you know what I'm talking, for those who know, you know what I'm talking about in Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. And Gene Hackman won the Oscar for his role as the sheriff in that. It was one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite Westerns of all time. But my favorite Gene Hackman movie is The Birdcage with Robin Williams. And I'm talking to my daughter, who, we've talked about here, we've shared this before. My daughters love every Friday night we're watching RuPaul's Drag Race. It's their favorite. It's our family thing to do. Yes, this guy here, the same guy who...
What word do you use in place of fuck in front of your kids?
Oh, good question.
None.
I use the word fuck.
Yeah.
So follow me for more parenting tips.
My soon-to-be 11-year-old daughter knows what a cooter slam is, which is thanks to RuPaul's Drag Race, because that's one of the dance moves that the drag racers will perform during the lip sync for your fucking life portion of the RuPaul's Drag Race. And so we've gone through that whole rigmarole, but my daughter has never seen The Birdcage, and so I'm trying to explain to her what The Birdcage is. I'm like, you know what? We should just watch it on the heels of Gene Hackman's death. So we popped on the video on Friday night and we watched The Birdcage. And it's just so amazing to me, to see somebody smoking in a restaurant or in a bar and going, holy, it was released in 1996. So we're not even talking the 70s into the 80s. We're talking almost Y2K. And people were still fucking smoking in bars and smoking in restaurants. They had smoking sections in restaurants that made little to no sense because it was just a few tables away. Perhaps it was
smoke didn't know.
No, it was perhaps separated by a little bit of lattice, which the smoke just goes right through. For those of you who are physics experts, there was nothing that was stopping the smoke from going through. So to see people in the restaurants and in the bars smoking, you're like, holy shit balls. I thought that was forever ago. And it literally was happening in as late as 1996, whatever. So there's that. But then also thinking about some of the parenting that went on in the movie, and the thing that on the back end of that, my wife and I had a conversation saying, I don't know that this movie could be made again the way it was in 1996. Because Nathan Lane, arguably the only out gay character in the movie, while Robin Williams, a straight guy with kids and marriage.
Hank Azaria too, though,
right,
not a gay guy, and right,
not
but he was in that movie, right? He was out in the movie, right?
He was the gay butler in there who wanted to be in the show so bad. Spartacus, he was amazing. I don't think you could make that movie without gay characters in the starring roles. In this day and age, the way they did in 1996, and again, that movie is so good and amazing.
It's that whole you got to weigh the star power to bring in the audiences versus putting a realistic character in there, which is why Asians are unrepresented in Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. It can go on forever. And the Oscars are going on, I think, maybe tonight. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems like that shit's getting better, but you're not wrong. I mean, there's so much of that is going on in Hollywood. And, just like parenting that happened in the 80s, we couldn't parent like that today. So you can't make a movie like that today.
Well, and again, when you hear what our parents did in the 80s and this article that's written specifically about all that, you'll be like, how is it possible? How are they not cuffed and hauled off? How am I still alive?
Parents? Right? Yeah. How am I still alive?
So all of that is still on the way here at the Dad's Home Podcast. We'll get to that all coming up in just a minute here. But first, I want to give everybody a heads up and a warning here that there is breaking news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story.
Get your masks on. keep your socially distanced selves away from the person behind you and in front of you, because the ick is out. It's not spread as widely as what we're seeing with COVID, or even, for what it's worth,
Measles?
in Texas there with the measles. Yeah. You guys are having a problem there as well. I understand that polio is making a return. There's a lot of different things that are happening right now, and there should be concerns. But the ick is one I don't know too many people who I haven't seen conversation about it. I haven't seen a whole bunch of social media about it, but it is spreading. It is definitely something that we need to be concerned about. For those of you who don't know what the ick is, I saw it on social media, and my wife actually sent me the same day I saw it. She's like, look at this. And I'm like, oh my God, she's telling me she's got the ick. That's what she's trying to tell me. This is how I read into it, right? I'm like, as soon as I get this, I'm like, oh, this is for sure.
I have these symptoms. I have these symptoms.
Right. This is like she's WebMD'd herself into believing.
I Googled ick. I've got it.
She's totally got it. Completely 100%. And so with that, I'm like, well, what is this? I got to figure out what this ick is, because the ick is something that sounds relatively scary. And lo and behold here, the ick is a sudden feeling of disgust toward your partner, often for minor things. So again, if you're married, a study showed physical appearance is a less frequent ick trigger than behavior or personality. Okay, so it's not necessarily the extra weight you've put on, or the crow's feet around your eyes, or the wrinkles around the sides of your mouth, or even your horrible 1990s goatee.
Your long toenails.
Thank you. I mean, any of those. It's not even my snoring, apparently, which is clearly an ick. I mean, that's a symptom of ick if I've ever heard one.
It is.
Literally heard it. But they're saying that 64% of people, 64% of married people, I'm guessing what they're saying, have felt the ick toward their partner. 26% have ended their relationship right after feeling the ick. So that's apparently a moment that for those of us who haven't been divorced, we've gotten over the ick. I don't. Your thoughts on that, Chad? I mean, can one overcome the ick?
I think the question here is can you build up an immunity to the ick? Like, you could come down with the ick, right? Be sick with the ick for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe in your antibodies, your ick antibodies begin to build up a tolerance for the ick.
Right.
And that's how marriages
don't have it, right? It's not like it's definitely there. You've experienced it. It's somehow dulled.
I think it's like herpes. So if you have herpes, like I think like 70 or 80 or maybe even 90% of us have herpes, right? Like you get a cold sore, that's herpes.
Right.
Hard not to have herpes is from what I understand.
Right.
And
if you're using public toilets, you're guaranteed herpes.
Easily.
If you've ever shopped at Pottery Barn, you're probably got herpes. If your wife has ever, I don't even think this is a thing anymore, so I'm going to say it. If your wife ever shopped at BB or Bebe, I don't know what they called it at the mall. The women always had the BB shirt. They probably got herpes. They probably at least got Valtrex with the purchase of their Bebe shirt. Yeah, I'm sure
they did. And so, in my mind, I think that the ick is like that, where you catch it at some point. Maybe you caught the ick at Bebe while you were shopping with your spouse, and then you're like, oh God, why do I feel like shit? Then you realize it's the ick, and then you're like,
it's the ick.
A week or two goes by, you're like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit better. I mean, I think I maybe still have the ick, but it feels like it's less.
I do.
So it makes a lot of sense.
What I don't see, and again, this is just based upon this article, and I believe it's Psychology Today was one of the places that was talking about the ick. They say that narcissism and perfectionism increase the ick likelihood. So if you're focused on yourself and only yourself, and or the perfectionist, like you've got to have everything down pat this way, and there's no other way to do it. In your partner, the ick factor climbs up, like it jacks up when that happens, right? Which is why I am definitely not a perfectionist when it comes to getting a hand job, because I think that's the one thing that fixes the ick.
I think that's a good point. Like if you're complaining about that, you need that to be perfect. That's ends in divorce.
I want to say this, and I'm gonna for a dude, and I'll just say this for the Dad's Home podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but I do believe that for dads, for guys, one of the things that will cure the ick, we're prone to catch the ick, just like everybody else in a marriage, just like our partners, like everybody else in marriage, we catch the same ick that they've caught, maybe at a different time, different place, different era,
maybe we're
whatever
passing it back and forth between each other.
But from the dude's perspective here, there's nothing that cures a case of the icks. It's like chicken soup for the ick is a solid hand job or some form of dry humping. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Of course,
I concur.
The further you want to go, absolutely, that will absolutely cure my ick for a very long. I mean, perhaps even just get rid of it altogether. May completely destroy that virus, the ick.
Well, but I think like most medicines, right, with something that's a prolonged disease, something that sticks with your body, you need medicine, every so often, right? To make sure that you keep the ick away, right? It's like, apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, a hand job a day keeps the ick away. So
hold on. I'm seeing a t-shirt right now. I'm here.
Dad's Home Podcast.
There is a t-shirt.
Let's go.
On the way, hand job a day keeps the ick away. I think that, and again, I'm not saying it's the cure-all, but I am saying that, sometimes one's symptoms can be so bad and you need a little Tamiflu or you need a little NyQuil to just kind of get you over that hump for the time being to be able to go back to work. And I'm saying when it comes to the ick, sometimes the only hump's a dry hump. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that can alleviate symptoms. If you've got symptoms, you might want to try the dry hump for alleviating symptoms.
Yeah, beautifully put.
Yes. And again, I just want to be clear on this. I'm not saying go out and get a dry hump from a complete stranger. No, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. From the one that you love that is giving you the ickness, it's perfectly
That's
acceptable.
The only cure.
That's the only cure for the ickness. If you want to get over that ickness, if you don't want to end like the 26% ending the relationship right after the ick signs have kicked in, dry hump, hand job. I'm just saying it's a solid remedy initially for the situation.
Yeah.
So now moving onward, the trends that make us absolutely sick as parents. And again, if you've heard this from I'm going to say it, my daughter throws shit back in my face all the time when it comes to this. Does your daughter do this? Do your daughters do this to you where they're like, why are you such a they take whatever the trend is. Why are you such a helicopter parent? Why are you constantly hovering? Why are you such a snow plow? I don't even know what the fuck that parent is. I have no idea what a snowplow parent is. Like barreling through and just like pushing everything aside for your kid. I don't know. I'm just trying to guess here. But when you hear these trends for parenting, you're like, there's no way I do that. And then you take a second and go, okay, maybe I just did that now. It's very good and possible that I know not me. I would never do that. There's so many facets of ways to raise your children and literally changes from week to week. If I did a search right now on ChatGPT, I'm sure I could come up with the top 5 parenting trends or top 10 over the last 10 years. And there's going to be way more than that. There'll be like 100 different parenting trends that are there. But like everything from, do you get your kids plastic toys? Or is that not okay because the plastics could cause cancer? So you've got to get them toys made of wood, or gifts that you're getting for other kids because you've got to have naturally sourced gifts for people's kids. What about this? For us, when my daughter was growing up, you had to be concerned, not just at school, with which kids had allergies and what you could provide to the school. Like, how many times did birthdays at school get canceled, or you could only bring something from the store that didn't contain anything that was cooked with nuts? Like, it was all of
like Oreos.
Right. Legitimate things that you have to have concerns about that started to shift the way you did things at your house or for your kid from when you were growing up. So we're at a place right now, this as weird as this sounds. I've got a dog. I've got a golden retriever. We were feeding that golden retriever. You just run down to the local pet store, get him like the Purina dog chow, put it in the bowl, whatever. No, we started doing Fresh Pet for a little bit. That's pricey shit. You know that? Fresh Pet, by the way, we would absolutely accept your advertising.
Hey, and I will go you one better.
Yeah.
We actually hand make our
Fucking
dog's
stop
food
it. We do the same thing.
Yes.
We do the same
Yeah.
thing. All right, so
We're
here's
not paying
what we
for
do.
this shit.
Ready?
But it's cheap as shit when you make it yourself. I'll just tell
Totally
you
is.
that
I mean,
much.
it doesn't last very long, but that's okay because it's fresh and they're eating good food because we get some of we either do like a ground chicken, ground turkey, we brown that up,
freeze it,
throw some
bro.
vegetables in. Yeah. Throw some vegetables in there, throw some quinoa or some rice in there, along with some broth to kind of keep that going, some sweet potatoes in there. And that's what my dog gets to eat every week. And she loves it. It's the best thing going. And I'm like, well, at least it's not the shit that they put in the kibble that I have no idea what's in there.
That's right.
We started doing that.
See, it's not a parenting trend. Well, I mean, I guess it is if you consider your pet.
We just talked about it. You're doing it. I'm doing it. It's a trend.
Yes, it's and I mean, we're parents to our pets, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. But I mean, like, how many parents did you know? Like, we went from getting jars of baby food, or not even jars. I'm sorry, I can't even say that anymore. They were like the squeezable containers that you could give your kids the baby food in.
See, that's how old school we are, folks.
Should you do that, or
Jars
should
of
you puree it yourself? Like, should you make your own shit for your kids? So there's all of these kinds of different trends that come up. And if you're not doing whatever the trend is, you're going to hear about it from somebody who's doing that trend. Even for the longest time, as we now take a look at who's in charge of health in this country, there were concerns about vaccines and whether or not that contact caused autism. And there were plenty of scientific studies to point out the facts, but that didn't stop people from going that complete other direction. Point being, that was a massive trend for a long period of time. I had a number of people my age, with my daughter's age, they had kids the same age as my daughter, that were questioning, should I even get my kid vaccinated for all these things? I'm like, okay, that's a trend. That's certainly something that we've got to take a look at. And I knew a number of people that were staying away specifically from that I think that, it became a very vast movement, which may have led to some of the chicken pox you're seeing right there in Texas right now. Could very well have led to a good portion of that. So anyway, those are some of the trends, but let's dig into some of the ones that they say are ones that parents are really pissed off about here. There's been BuzzFeed has gone through, asked the parents that they have reading their website, what are some of the ones that are just annoying as fuck to you? And these are the ones that came back. So number one, parents never let their children be bored. When my daughter complained about boredom, I gave her some chores. She learned to embrace boredom, which is not entirely a bad thing. I'll tell you what I did. I gave my daughter my phone. That's the wrong move. That's not the right move.
That is, see, there you go. The very first one out of the gate. Both you and I are guilty. We can't let our children be bored.
Can't let our children be bored. I can't.
I do like what this guy says. Hey, okay, you're bored. Let's go outside and mow the yard.
Right.
Oh, now you're not so bored.
All of a sudden,
weird.
You're not bored anymore, right? You're raking leaves. That bores you. Yeah. Hey, all right, that's cool. I got some other stuff you could do. That's fine.
The garage. We need to clean the garage out. We need to organize those shelves. Let's go.
Yeah. We got to fix the blacktop on the driveway. Why don't you start laying down some tar? We'll start pounding it out there and then do an overhaul. It'll be great. You can totally keep from getting bored. It's going to take like 3 or 4 days. Let's do this.
We need to rebuild the carburetor on the car too. So
exactly. Daddy's got to hang some new drywall. Let's do this. So, but that's certainly a thing that we can't for a second. And our kids, like when I was growing up, Chad. First of all, I keep, this is how old I am to my kids. I couldn't play enough baseball. I would do anything in the summertime. I would go out with a wiffle ball by myself and I would draw like lines of chalk on the garage door and I'd hit the ball to those different lines to try to get points. Like we'd play horse out with the basketball over the garage and the basketball hoop. And we'd try to, but at the same time, my friends and I would get on our fake BMX dirt bikes and go down to the schoolyard. And if there were only 2 of us, we'd have one pitcher and one hitter, and we would put trash cans down from second base, like home plate, down second base all the way to center field, and you could only hit to the right side or the left side of those trash cans. Or we'd play tennis ball, baseball, and we were constantly finding things to do. And I feel like my kids can't do that now.
Well, I look, say what you want about electronics, media, the internet, whatever. Our kids are digital natives from now on. Most kids, unless there's some giant magnetic pulse that knocks out all electricity, this is, it's here to stay, right? Kids are going to be digital natives, and it's too easy for kids to jump on a device instead of, hey, let's go outside and be creative and come up with a game where I only have to hit it to the right side. That doesn't happen anymore. It should. I think it's a shame that we're not still doing that with our kids. You know, and I know in our house we held out as long as we could, but we gave in. But there's something to be said for letting your kids have that imagination and play. Like I remember when my kids are, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, we had pet shop something anyway, but like these little like characters my kids would play with, they would play for hours and use their imagination. And I mean, you know, they would set up these elaborate, I still have videos on my phone of them like playing this, right? Like they would, hey dad, can I borrow your phone? I'm going to make a video of me playing. I'm like, yeah, cool. Knock yourself out. And so that still existed. And that's, you know, having that imagination, I think that's the that's the serum to this, right?
We used to have just Legos, like not a set of Legos, like not a Lego Friends
pile of
spa
Legos.
day. Like you just had fucking blocks of Legos and you had to make shit with them. You didn't know what you were making. It was all discolored. It didn't match at all. But you're like, look at this goddamn castle that I made, or the Empire State Building. Yes, it's 18 different colors and none of them match. Why is that floor yellow? I don't know. That's all I had for bricks were yellow bricks right there. But that's how you made shit, and you kept busy doing it, and you actually felt like you were like accomplishing stuff. But I feel like, you know, then move into the digital age, as you pointed out, which again, my 17-year-old daughter at age 3, when she was on my phone, was deleting contacts from my phone. Like she knew how to not just scan through stuff, but she's deleting contacts from my phone.
Dad doesn't need to talk to these people.
No idea who they were, but all of a sudden they're gone. I can't find them anymore. So I feel like that, you know, there's a plus and minus with all of that. The plus side is she's so fluent in all that. It's second nature. There's no intimidation when it comes to using computers or phones or any of that kind of stuff. And it's very helpful to my wife and I when it comes to social media and business and all of it. It's fantastic. But at the same time, remember Legos jumped on board for a little while there, where not only were your directions on how to build the kit through your phone, like you'd scan a QR code and that's where the directions where you'd slide through your phone to see how to build the Lego Friends kit. But then you could also take snapshots and it would put like a total picture around your Lego kit, like a scene. And then they came out with an app where you could film a movie with your own. It was crazy stuff that we would never be able to do when we were kids, but it was all around not allowing your kids in this day and age to be bored. And I kind of feel like it's okay for them to be a little bored. It's all right. They don't need to constantly. I think they need a little downtime from the constant influx of stimulus that they see, whether it's on the phone or on the TV or anywhere around them. It's all right to have a little downtime and be a little bored. It's okay for that. It's okay for parents to do that for a bit.
So what is the other toxic parenting trend that I am guilty of on the list?
Yes. Let's see. First of all, I will say when your kid doesn't go to sleep, it's the worst thing that you can go through as a parent. When your kid is not sleeping and now you can't sleep and all you want to do is sleep and you know you can sleep in a second as soon as your head hits the pillow, but they're not sleeping and you have a conversation with your other half like, can we give them Benadryl? Because, I mean, they're not sneezing right now. I thought I heard a little, it sounded like she's a little stuffed up.
Yeah, their nose looks a little red. Maybe I don't know.
I know that's going to make them go to sleep, but is that kind of giving them drugs for no reason other than to try to get them to sleep? Well, and then welcome into melatonin, and that became a thing for people to do, is to hand off melatonin to their kids. But then you start to the kids get used to that, and like any form of a drug, they become, you know, they build up a tolerance to it, and so you need more and more. That becomes certainly a scary situation going forward for some of the parents. I have tried so hard to stay away from that. I have given my kids melatonin before, but it's on like the once in a generalized long time. If it's mainly about nightmares or if they're having some sort of a problem with sleep that they can't even, you know, voice what the disturbance was, or they're fearful of something's in their room. It was when they were, you know, smaller. I've given like half of a melatonin for them to be able to take the kids' melatonin version of it. But I largely, as they got older, we just stayed away from all that and didn't need to go there. But that was one of the big trends that was happening for a while as well.
So, so it's weird. I have a question for the audience, I think here.
Yeah.
You know, when my kids were little, we used to give them like half an Ambien. And
okay.
So,
all right.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna be like, well, we used to dose them up on some heroin.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast they go to sleep.
I know, right?
Well, I mean, look, like my mom talks, and I thought it was jokes until I got older and realized she's not fucking joking about this. But when she was younger and she'd have a cough, there'd be whiskey involved with some sort of honey that they would take to kind of soothe and make them go to sleep.
Yeah,
and
that was a legit mom's recipe, like, you know, that was legit.
NyQuil is basically pure alcohol, so let's just have at it and fucking fall asleep, and you'll be crashed out until the next day. Sometimes it's even hard to get up with that kind of a hangover. So, this is one that I have a problem with, but I certainly tell my kids this. Telling your kids they can be literally anything.
Oh, sure.
That they can go to an Ivy League university. They can be a movie star. They can be an NFL quarterback. They can be the president. All you have to do is dream big. The trouble is, many talented people don't do those things because of bad luck, not wanting the stress, or simply because there are too few professional football players. So teaching your kids to work hard and develop their talents is great, but telling them they can do anything if they just want it bad enough sets them up for a major disappointment. So
yeah, yes, and I will add to this. You know, both of us have softball kids, and I have seen over the years the drop off of kids. Like, a lot of kids play softball 12, 14 years old, around the 16U age up to the 18U age is where there's a drop off of kids who play. And it really comes down to, I think, this exact thing where parents are like, oh, you can totally play a D1 school, blah, blah, blah. You're bound to play great softball, right? And the parents have a delusion about their kid, and they tell them this shit, and the kid gets it in their head. But then the kid figures out, you know what? That's a lot of work. I don't want to do that work. And so the difference, the subtle difference here between telling your kids they can be whatever they want and doing it the right way as a parent, at least in my mind, and how I've handled it with my kid, is put in the work.
Yes.
Put in the work. I can't put in the work for you, but put in the work. If that is your dream, if that is your goal, put in your work. And I'm happy to drive you to do the work. I'm happy to be there, like catching you if you're going to be pitching like my kid. I will be there to support that, but you got to put in the work. You don't put in the work, you got no dream. It's air. It's nothing. And so, hey, you want to do these things, put in the work. That's the difference. And so, just telling your kid that and making them think they can be that, and then watching them fail because you set them up for failure, that sucks.
Yeah. And I think the other side of that, and I think this is equally as important to bring up as you talked about with the hard work. And I can say this because both my wife and I, in the good times and the bad times, have followed our dreams to be what we've wanted to be professionally. And sometimes that's come with a ton of sacrifice. It's come with not having roots. For me, working in radio, having to move all over the country, to find the next job, to pursue that job in the bigger market. And so you don't really have friends or roots that you've set any place. But also just the acknowledgement that not only is there the hard work that comes with that, sometimes the successes aren't always there. And sometimes you have to be prepared for the failures that come with that. And they can be overwhelming. So it's if you want to pursue that part of your life, if you want to pursue something that is your dream, I'm going to be here to fully support you in whatever that is. But with it, I would always, prepare for some sort of a backup plan and something that you can do when things aren't going well for whatever that profession is, because there will be moments when those things happen. And so it's not just about putting in all the hard work, because you can put all the hard work in the world in and not get the break. So you've got to be prepared for what that's going to be and how you're going to move forward with that. Because I'm all for following that dream. I'm all for being what you want to be, but just realize that in order to do that, there's going to be a number of other things that you have to do that other people, your friends, aren't going to have to do.
Yeah. T-shirt. I can't. I have softball.
Exactly. Yes. 100%. Look at this. Hey, we're like what half an hour into this, and we've got 2 T-shirts already ready to go. Now, there's two different things that I have a problem with, and I'll bring that up secondly here. But the free range parenting element that people had been doing, like when my kids were little, which was just basically like let your kids do whatever the fuck they want to do. We grew up at a time when you didn't have to. You can go out and do whatever. We were latchkey kids. You go out and you do whatever you want to do as long as you're home before the street lights come on. You're in good shape if you've gotten your homework done and all that kind of stuff. But free range parenting was kind of in my opinion, was kind of the forced heir to that. It was like, well, look, if we did it when we were growing up, why can't we let our kids do it? So we'll just let them do anything that they want to do. They will have free reign. You've seen some of the schools, like the Montessori schools. They're like, there's not a regimented program in place for them as to what they're going to learn. It's whatever you want when you go in that day. You go and learn it, and the teachers will be there for whatever you want to focus on, kind of until you're tired of it and move on to the next thing. Which, again, I don't have a problem with that, but I do think that there has to be guidelines in place, and free-range parenting was sort of the anti-guideline portion of things. And I think what you've seen... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the word you're looking for is structure. There is like a ton of evidence, scientific evidence to say kids need structure. Yeah. Period. Hard stop, period. Like
I think they thrive on it. And then that goes from everything from, the theory of sleep begets sleep, and letting your kid kind of cry it out, which I always thought was the worst thing when you have a child, that's just has been born or is in the first year of their life, and you're like, I can't stand all the crying when we need to get them to go down for their nap and the time that they're supposed to have their nap, and you're like, just let them cry it out. I'm like, that's so mean, but it works. And they cry it out and they go to sleep and they start to develop their patterns from there. That's how this all comes together.
Yeah.
But it's part of that structure. It's part of realizing, there's discipline. There are things that you have, if you're constantly free ranging, you don't necessarily get the thought of discipline as something that enters your mind. You're not getting punished for doing things. It's kind of like either a success or failure, but there's no punishment when you're looking at the way you interact with other people and how you interact in a society, as the case may be.
Yeah, I always bring it back to work for my kids. I'm like, intellectually speaking here, do you think that this would work if you had a job?
Yeah.
Right. So if you were free ranging at work,
right,
parents, and you had a very specific job, I don't know, say you're a nurse, right?
Right.
And you're a free range nurse. I'm pretty sure you're not going to be a nurse at whatever particular place you're working very long if you're free range.
Right.
There's a specific set of things you have to do. You got to look at patients, paper, blah blah blah. Anyway, free range.
You can't be a free range brain surgeon. That's not going to happen.
That is. Yeah. Let me just climb around in this guy's brain for a while, see what's there. And I'm going to go eat a snack while I'm doing it.
Who says I got to get this thing all stitched up and closed up quickly? We're having fun. Let's get at this. Watch what I can make him do with his left hand. Let's check this out.
Exactly. Yeah, folks. So,
and then the last thing I want to put out there, and I've sort of tried to rally against this for the most part with my kids because I've seen other parents do this with their kids, which is the not making your kids do things because you didn't like to do them when you were their age. Like, I don't like to clean my room. I didn't like to do it when I was a kid. Well, you also have a messy fucking house right now. So I don't like walking into your stinky house because you don't like to clean because you had to clean when you were younger, when you were a kid. There's a reason why all that happened on just a basic health level, but sanitary functions, being able to breathe in one's home, not walking in where there's mold, there's all kinds of things in there. So if you didn't like it, I'm sorry you didn't like cleaning, but there's a reason that people do it. There's a reason that when you go to a restaurant or you go to a dining establishment, they have to keep the place clean. What if they were pissed that they had to keep it so clean that when their parents owned a restaurant, now they're like, fuck it, we're just going to keep this place filthy. That's what puts the guy who goes in and rescues the bars and rescues the restaurants. It's put him in business because he goes in there and is like, what's with the rats running around your kitchen? My parents made me get rid of the rats when I was a kid, so I don't like to do that anymore. I'm going to let the rats run around here. Well, you're fucking going to be closed down. So I think that there's a point where you didn't like it, and I appreciate that. But I think you can still explain to your kids what it was you didn't like about it and how it can be done differently so that the same result is there. The place is clean. It's tidy. It's sanitary. It's not, there's no mold around the place. I grew up with 16 fucking cats in my house, Chad.
Yeah.
16 cats. It wasn't even a house. It was a kitty litter box with a chimney. That's what I grew up in. And you can't clean that. That's uncleanable. No. You fucking have to raise that building is what you have to do. So
burn it.
I'm not gonna go tell my kids, hey, I hated having to clean up cat shit because my mom wouldn't do it. So I'm not gonna make you do it. Like, you have to be able to explain the situation and put it into terms where the result is still there. You don't want to raise an entire generation of kids who think they don't have to do anything because they don't like it. That's not what this is about. Again, it goes back to work. It goes back to functioning in society. But there's got to be a way that you're still going to interact with others at some point. And guess what? You're going to have to do shit you don't like to do.
Oh, 1,000%. That's especially when those people become parents and then they realize, oh shit, I'm the only one who is here to change my kid's diaper.
Yes. God. And I gotta be honest. I will tell everyone. I'm pointing at the camera here. I will tell every one of you new dads right now, as scared as you are about changing a shitty diaper for your kids, as frightening as that seems, whatever it's going to be, whatever you've built up to be in your imagination, there is not a better bonding moment with your child than cleaning that diaper. Looking at them in the face, singing to them, talking to them when they're tiny and they're giggling and they're kicking. There is not a better bonding moment. So for all of your boys, I don't want to have to clean a dirty diaper. Fuck off. Grow up. You've got a kid now and go enjoy that. That's a moment in all of that diaper changing you're never going to get back. So go and be a parent and let that be a point where you've got the ability to bond with your kid instead of making it this, I refuse to do it because I don't want to get my hands dirty.
Two things. One, preach it, brother.
Thank
you. Changing a diaper allows you when they're teenagers and or at their wedding to tell them, hey, you know what? I used to wipe your ass.
Yes.
It's
not even them. Fuck them. You can tell their newfound spouse or
that's
whoever they're getting married to at that wedding.
Yeah. I'm a dad. I'm going to make a speech and I'm going to say in the speech, yes, I remember when I used to wipe your ass. I mean,
remember when you had that time that the shit exploded out of your diaper? Do you remember? Because I remember that. I was there. Yeah. I had to clean that up.
Do you remember that time on the airplane where I caught all of your vomit in a blanket? Yeah, that was me.
Remember when you were running around on the water pad in your bathing suit and you just shit yourself right there in the middle of it? Because I remember that. I was there for that.
I was there.
Yeah.
So those are great moments, folks, is to be able to relive those later. So like my buddy here, Bauer, is saying, absolutely 1,000% do it. Because later on, that's comedy gold. That's all I'm saying.
It's comedy, but it's bonding too. And guess what?
That's the serious piece of it.
You're not going to get that anyplace else. So take it for what it's worth and don't be such a Sally about the shit part of it. Just deal with it. You're going to be you're going to have so much more to deal with. You're going to have so much more. That's going to
just wait till they're teenagers.
Yes. Wait till you find out they've got a Snapchat account and what they're fucking putting out there. Then you can start to worry. But now, just clean a diaper or two, bro.
That's easy. That's simple. It's simple. It's basic.
Clean it up.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. All right. We're getting ready to take a break here. When we come back, the things that our parents did in the 1980s when we were growing up that you can get away with now. I don't think you can get away with it now. I wouldn't suggest trying to get away with it now. And I would think that most people, looking back on it, at least 2 or 3 of these things should have been illegal. My dad should be,
I'm sure,
on Alcatraz still because
I'm surprised.
Chad, you combine some. There's some serious, like the Child Protective Services would have something to say about this shit.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm not dead from lung cancer. To be honest, I mean,
right off the bat,
the amount of times.
Number one on the list. There must have been friends that we had that never survived because of this. There has to be, or are now like incapacitated, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh,
God.
yeah.
All right. We'll talk about what those things were in the 80s and how they could never, absolutely never happen again these days when we return here on the Dad's Home Podcast.
This is a clearly not metrosexual moment in history.
Crazy Horse. Celebrated for his ferocity in battle, Crazy Horse was recognized among the Lakota Indians as a visionary leader. In 1876, the U.S. War Department ordered all Lakota onto reservations, and Crazy Horse, he didn't say, let's share, let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya. He became a leader of the resistance. Furthermore, he rode into battle on an angry steed, not some pansy automobile like a VW Bug or a PT Cruiser. Crazy Horse famously said, my lands are where my dead lie buried. A famous metrosexual once said, my lands are where my Prada loafers await purchase. If around today, Crazy Horse would kick that guy's ass. This has been Lee Camp. For more funny crap, check out leecamp.net and sharkbaby.com.
Warning, the following material may not be suitable for those 18 years old or younger. Are you ready? Ready for the hottest in menopausal entertainment? Prepare yourself for Church Women Gone Wild. Direct from St. Josephine's Bake Sale. They're crazy. They're out of control. They have cankles. Church Women Gone Wild. It's all the girl-on-girl knee-high stocking and varicose veins you can stand. From the Holy Water Wet T-shirt contest to accepting sacraments and their granny panties. Church Women Gone Wild are off their kneelers and on their knees to please for God. Order now. Church Women Gone Wild. $10.99 for the DVD, $24.99 for only the audio. Seriously, that's kind of creepy and gross. Too dirty for the Vatican? Too hetero for the priesthood? It's Church Women Gone Wild. Once this is over, you'll pray for forgiveness. Order now at kanklesforchrist.com.
Welcome back to the Dad Zone podcast. Still to come, try to capture the whole of parenting in one social media post. And you think the worst parent of the year 2025 contest is getting ready to wrap up? Oh no, it's just heating up, my friends. We are officially in March. So when you start looking at bracketology, we're ready to get into the parenting that is the worst of 2025. And this may be, as I take a look at this chat, and I might be wrong, we'll have to discuss this further. I think we're getting pretty close to this being the end of the 2025 entries because we are that close to starting the brackets. And
time to throw them in the brackets. Yeah. We'll have to get the interns to, create us a little bracket chart with all the bad parents on it.
Yes. And by interns, you mean the sweatshop kids. I totally understand. Because I think that's we're close. We're there. We're ready to start working on these brackets and formulating who's the worst of the worst. And so today may be one of the last entries that we have. So it'll be that important when you start thinking about who really gets cast as the worst parent of 2025. This entry could mean something that's desperately important, not just to the space available, but then who are they going to be taking on down the road and really walk away as the champ of the worst parent of 2025. All right. That said, our parents, they didn't know. I'm going to give them this. They didn't know any better. The technology that they had wasn't nearly the technology that you and I have had while our kids, us seniors in high school, our eldest, have been growing up, right? The technology has been far and away improved for them compared to when we were growing up. And that is proven by some of the parenting techniques that we went through, we were a part of, or we saw some friends go through, but understanding what the parenting life was like in the 80s and what we had to deal with as kids, how did we survive that, Chad the Dad? I don't know. Only your mustache can tell. But let's take a look at some of the things that we could never get away with now. Not only could we never get away with, in a lot of these cases, I'm going to say in a handful of them, we could be cited and ticketed. We could have a
record. That's what you're saying. We could be felons.
Yes. You could have, in any given state, you could have people chasing you down for treating your kids poorly by doing some of these things. And this was normal parenting in the 80s. Right. This was every day. Every kid on your block, on my block, did this because their parents had them do this. So I'll start with the number one, which I don't know how I didn't die. I don't know how I didn't end up with more brain injury than I currently have, but we had seatbelts. I mean, they weren't seatbelts nowadays, you've got the strap that comes across the chest. It securely fits in there. It's got a nice, you can adjust the height so that it comes across the shoulder at the right place and across your chest. You're not choking people out on the neck. There's all kinds of, we didn't have that in my dad's 1976 Ford Pinto wagon with the fake paneling on the side. We had one belt that strapped across your waist, and that you had to cinch that up so that you could sit into place relatively safely. But Dad and Mom never really cared about it. It was not a big deal. No.
It was not law. It was the thing, right?
No, and God, no.
We absolutely rode around like that without seatbelts. I mean, I can't tell you. Even I remember very clearly, like when the law changed, and my parents were like, "Seatbelts, fuck that." I mean, I seriously, like I remember as a kid, you're like, oh, well, they changed the law. I got to wear seatbelts now, right? Yeah. Like I got to be a rule follower. And my parents are like, nah.
Yes. They're like, shut the fuck up. That's what they wanted to say. That's what they wanted to say to you. They wanted to go, hey, you know what? That seatbelt law thing? Shut the fuck up. Thank you. We haven't needed it. We didn't have it. We didn't even have seatbelts when we were kids.
So look, that's right. I'm alive.
Not only that, but if you had the family wagon, you didn't even have seatbelts in the back of the wagon where everybody was supposed to sit. It was like built for the kids. There was bench seating, depending on how big the station wagon was, for you to sit with a bunch of your friends where everybody's knees were kind of knocking together in the center there, but it was like a U-shaped seating arrangement. And there wasn't a damn belt in any of those places. No. Certainly no kind of a harness. It was just you. Not only that, what about riding in the back of a truck?
Oh, God.
People just used to ride in the back of a truck without any belts there. They had a fucking car called a Subaru Brat that had seats in the back of the truck with no seatbelt. They had handles. You could hold on to the handles like you were in a fucking circus ride, but they didn't have any seatbelts for you. So any bumps in the road, you're bumping out of the back of the truck. You're catching air. And that was like a selling point, was that they had seats back there for you to sit in the back of the Subaru Brat. So, Jesus, I don't know how more of us didn't die from that, Chad, than we've experienced.
Some of us did, but probably a lot less these days.
You would, guaranteed, summertime, you would see at least, I would say once a week, if I tried to average it out, one person driving around with, by the way, not obeying any speed limit whatsoever in a neighborhood, with their truck and a dog in the back of the truck, like just bouncing around as well. Like, you just,
I live in Texas. That shit happens today.
I was gonna say, it still does happen in Texas. It's a good point. Sometimes it's not just a dog. Like, you got a family of dogs there. Like, oh, look, they got the puppies in the back too. That's great. That's fun. So I'll bring this up because I saw it again in the birdcage, the smoking around kids. That wasn't a problem. They didn't have a problem. You could get on a fucking plane, a tube in the air with very little ventilation, and just light up a heater on the flight to across country with kids there.
I can't tell you how many days, hours, months, weeks that I spent in a car. So I grew up in Colorado, right? Wintertime, cold outside, windows are up, parents smoking in the car, windows closed, which why I haven't died of lung cancer at this point in my life is a mystery. But I remember so clearly, like, just being like, oh, God damn it, you're going to smoke again. And trying to hold my breath for as long as possible and breathe. Like, maybe there was fresh air under the seat in front of me because I didn't wear a seatbelt, so I could climb under the seat and try to breathe some of that fresh air down there.
Also, just to add to that a little bit, and the way that the cars were built back then, not everybody had air conditioning. Air conditioning was a luxury for a lot of people in the late 70s and early 80s. And so you would be lucky in my dad's Ford Pinto that he would roll down the window a little bit. He had actually to roll it down. You didn't have a button you pressed that rolled down. You had to actually, with the crank, turn the crank to roll your window up or down, depending on how it went. Or if you were lucky enough to be a kid in the back seat while mom and dad were smoking, they didn't even have a window that you could roll down. They had these little pop-out windows that would lock, and it would give you about maybe an inch and a half worth of space for air to come in.
Not even that.
Not even
three-quarters of an inch if you're lucky.
Yeah, so that was the fresh air that you were getting. And what that actually did is if they didn't roll their window down the front, it just blew the smoke the air would come in through the back windows, go to the front, and blow the smoke right back to you.
Yeah, what those were vents for the smoke from the front of the car to come to the back of the car where you were to go out those windows. So as you're sitting there like trying to suck some fresh air out of that little 3/4 of an inch crack, you're basically all you're doing is just breathing smoke that was getting, exiting the vehicle. So.
And yet every year as I watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and John Candy light that car on fire with his cigarettes, I never have stopped to think about, God, that's exactly what it could have been, that kind of danger that we were going in with our parents who were like, I love you, but I gotta have my Virginia Slim. So
yeah, I don't love you as much as I love my Virginia Slims.
I love my Virginia Slims like a lot more. I mean, like I'll see you when I go to put you to bed and we'll have time, but I gotta have this Virginia Slim, because of you right now. That's what I have to do.
I'm sure that's why.
Again, we grew up at a time where we were latchkey kids, so our parents seemingly didn't give a shit. Like, as long as you could get to your house and open the door, or as I started to get older, they'd put a key, hide it someplace, right? They'd have one of those fake rocks in the yard that had a key hidden in it, or they'd have the magnetized thing under the car or wherever for you to be able to get the key so you could open the door and get in. But early on, it was just everything was unlocked, good to go, just like get in the house, and then go do what you wanted to do. Like, it's like, got your homework done, you're good to go. Just be back before the lights go out on the street. You could do so much shit. We never did. Like, we just were out playing baseball all the time. I never did.
That's the 80s version of free range parenting, really.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was just called parenting. Yeah,
it was called parenting back then. But yeah, that unsupervised time really allowed us to have this level of creativity and, like, making up the games around baseball, or like, I mean, I can't tell you how many hours we played kick the can. Right. Summertime, we're out of school, all the kids in the neighborhood get together. We play that shit for hours. Hours and hours and hours. And
all I needed was like a stick and a rock, and I would hit that like it was a baseball. Like, we would find shit to do. But that said, your parents were nowhere to be found. Like, they were working, they were doing stuff. They weren't following you. They weren't taking you to a park and watching you on a play date. Like, that didn't happen.
Childcare was not an industry back then.
No, the only time you had a sitter was when your parents were going out to, like, there was some sort of a Christmas party for the company your dad worked at. And you didn't have a sitter every day of the week, or, you know what I mean? Like, there was nobody to take you and to make you. I had to make myself lunch, or make myself and my brother lunch. There was nobody there to do any of that. We had to do all of that. So it was that was the thing that got me. Like, your parents could just fucking abandon you, and they felt like, all right, well, he's not going to kill himself, we'll be in good shape. And I don't know what that test was. I don't know where it was. We're like, okay, seems like, I mean, we have a fire escape plan in place, and it's a ranch, it's a 1-story, you're not going anyplace. We have a fire escape in place. He's had earthquake drills at school. He's good. Let's just let him do it. It's all good. I mean, there were so many things that could go wrong, but didn't. And somehow the fact that my parents were never around and we could do whatever we wanted, I don't think that could happen these days. You would never see anything like that happen. Everybody's got a play date. Everybody's got to be at the park at some place with a nanny or somebody else's parents, and then you got to meet their parents there, and you got to have coffee, and then you can only play for a certain amount of time before you get them to the next big event. I didn't have any of those events. I played Little League, and that was it. That's all that ever happened. So
what I hear you saying, Bauer, is that you were longing for the old days where you could just like give your kid a key and like just tell them to do whatever the fuck they want, and you don't have to worry about it.
It's so weird because when my kids were little, I couldn't even think about that. Like, I couldn't be like, just come back when the lights come on. There's no way. Could you imagine saying
You're
that to
7.
me?
You don't know what that means.
I could never say that to Charlie at any. I couldn't say that to Lucky now. She's going to be 11 this week. I could never just be like, just come back when the lights come on. I don't care whose house you're at. I don't need to know where you are. Don't even leave me a note.
Try it. Just try it. Tell her. Just, hey, get out of the house. Don't come back till the lights come on in the street.
Can you imagine? Bye. Holy shit. I don't need to know where you are, whose house you're at. I don't give a fuck. Just as long as you come home, or you've got to be close enough to hear me yell down the street. So that when you hear me, it's, dinner's ready, then you know to come and be right here. That's all you. That was the only responsibility you had.
Oh, the 80s.
How did we survive that? Spanking is a discipline. I don't even think we need to go into that. There's nobody who's doing anything like that.
Okay, not disciplining my children, but between me and Paula, we'll just
totally different scenario. That goes back to the ick and how you cure the ick. Just a little spank here and there is not a bad thing.
It's not.
No. We see this a lot on the worst parents of the year when we bring those stories in here. But kids sitting on a parent's lap while they're driving.
That's how I learned how to drive. I mean,
is it really?
Oh God! I exaggerate. But I remember doing this. Yeah, I was 16, sitting on my dad's lap. It was fun. No, but I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old. My dad let me drive. I remember we lived. We had this long road that was all uphill to our house, and I was maybe 11, 12, 13 years old. And I'd be like, yeah, come on, Dad. And so, he'd let me sit on his lap and we'd drive up the hill. I get to drive on the, road.
Nice.
So dangerous as fuck, I'm sure.
Sure.
I can't even think about and I will say probably driving back then a little different than it is today. The vehicles weren't as sophisticated. People didn't drive 75 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone.
Good point.
Well, like they do here in Texas. But
you couldn't drive 75 miles an hour anyway.
Speed limits were
cars, 50, so
and cars really didn't ever go that fast. Right. You couldn't. You'd have to spend a lot of money on a Corvette or some shit.
Right, or you'd have to have some really old school big engine Mustang kind of thing to be able, an old goat to be able to make that work. Yeah. Yeah. So no, that was never a. Anyway, so that's how I did that as a kid. Yeah. I will add just a couple of other quick ones here before we move on, because we're going to have to get to some tweets or posts technically, because we're going to dive into a little bit of a blue sky to try to find some parenting posts that we think are good. Helmets. You can't see kids without helmets doing anything these days, be it skateboarding, skiing, riding bikes. They've got to have helmets for everything. And we didn't. If you had a helmet when we were growing up, it was because there was something wrong with you. There was something wrong with you. Wrong to say, but that's the truth. It's the truth. That's how we knew who those kids were. Because all the rest of us are out there like, why does Dave have a helmet? Yeah. Oh shit, that's Dave? That Dave. Oh, that Dave. Damn. Okay. Wow, he must have been riding in the back of Dad's station wagon again. He knocked himself for trying to get the fresh air into the seat. Holy shit. There used to be a time, I know that's impossible to think of nowadays because we've got television shows and movies, and I swear to God, I opened Instagram the other day and just saw a woman breastfeeding her kid on Instagram, and I didn't turn away. I'm just saying, there used to be a time when people just fed their kids baby formula. My mom always talked about there was never the concern about breastfeeding like there is nowadays. And it was just all baby formula exclusively. Not even, and sometimes you barely got baby formula. As soon as you were able to eat solid foods, you were transitioned right in there. You were done with any kind of formula. So, which is I think why I love steak so much these days. Ribs. I was eating ribs at 8 months. I don't know. But I do think that that is something that you get literally called out. You would get yourself your entire, oh my God, formula. You would get your address and socials put out there. If you weren't breastfeeding your kid, you would become the center of a community. If they could burn you at a stake like a witch because you weren't breastfeeding your kid, you would be burned at that stake. Truth. You would be Rebecca Nurse at the Salem witch trials. Holy shit. And then the last one was and again, I say this because I'm deathly concerned about it. And we've seen so many bad stories that have happened since the time that my 17-year-old daughter's been born. But used to be a time, Chad, nobody cared if you left your kid in the car, parked at grocery store. Oh, come on. I know that happened. I got left in the car for sure. Yeah. I don't have any distinct memories of it, but if you left your kid in the car today, just sit there, the car running, right? Or not, either way. You back then people wouldn't blink an eye. It's oh yeah, I did that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
today though, they would like the police would be there when you came out of the store.
Someone had just pulled into that parking lot and saw the kid. I mean, they do it with dogs. They see an animal or something alive in that car, they will break the window to try to rescue him. Like the kid was sleeping. I mean, there have been times as a parent, I'm sure you have experiences too, where you pull up, you get home from a long road trip, or maybe it's even just, from like the kids have gone jumping at the trampoline place and you're driving home 20 minutes.
When I go to the bar and I leave them in the car.
You're at the casino. You're going to be there for a bit.
And I'm going to, leave them in the car and I come home and they're asleep.
I give him a bottle of melatonin to play with for a little bit. We're all good. Who needs, I mean, you can shake it around, right? What's the worst that can happen? But you get home and they're asleep and you're like, they haven't napped. They need to nap. I'm gonna let them sleep in the car. I'm gonna, if it's the summertime, I'm leaving the AC on. But I'm gonna go up in the house. I'm gonna check on them like every 5 minutes. I'll make my way around, make sure they're kind of still there. But I'm gonna let them sleep in the car because they need to sleep. And I've done that numerous times. And even to the point where I've maybe even for an hour they sleep in the car, and then I go down. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wake them up and bring them back in.
And that's why you pull into the garage and shut the door, with the car running. I mean, obviously,
so evil. It's so evil. You're really sure they're getting their nap. They're getting their nap at that point.
Yeah, they are.
Sure,
that's definitely getting a nap.
They're definitely getting their nap at that point. And the last thing I'll just throw out there that I never took part in, never wanted to take part in, but when we were growing up, it wasn't a problem. Go hitchhike. Get yourself a ride out there by thumbing it. The thumb out there, hitchhike, get yourself a ride to wherever you need to get to. No big deal. Somebody, I'm sure a nice person will drive by in their car and see you there on the side of the road and just pick you up and take you wherever you need to go for nothing. No gas money, no nothing. Just go ahead and hitchhike your way there.
No.
You would not. That doesn't happen now.
It's gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free. Come on.
I think I've seen that bumper sticker.
Yeah,
I think I did see that bumper sticker. It was very, very highlighted in the 1980s. So it was a different time. And these are all outdated practices you would never see anybody do these days. And I think in most of those cases,
if you do, call the police.
I was going to say, someone's getting cited. Child Protective Services will be called. You will be, any one of those things you will be investigated for, seriously investigated for.
Yeah.
And they will come out and they will question you. They will question your kid and they will question your neighbors all about you. So good luck with that being a parent.
Bookmark this episode, folks. This is going to be valuable to you someday.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll try to see if we can encapsulate the what it takes to be a parent here these days, not in the 80s, but these days, what it takes to be a parent by digging deep into what it's like to post on social media and exactly what they share with us when we talk about parenting next for the parenting post of the week here on the Dad's Home Podcast.
To the Gay Channel.
What is it?
It's the second annual male group orgy competition.
And he hits the hole right after Jesse opens it up.
It's coming to the Gay Channel.
What is it?
It's the second annual male group orgy competition.
And he hits the hole right after Jesse opens it up.
With your hosts, John Madden and Pat Summerall.
And then everyone's kind of slopping around down there and grunting and groaning. And, you get mud and stuff flying and gang tackles and scrums and quagmires.
No femmes, fats, or harries, just the hunkiest gay studs and wild group action competition.
Like to pack that guy around, too.
Don't get carried away, John.
There was all kinds of stuff flying around there.
It's male group sex to die for, as described by the best play-by-play team in the biz.
Yeah, that was a late one. That one didn't come, and finally they threw it out of there. Whoop. I don't know where that one came from. Look at that big old beef and lop. Whoa, what a meal those guys are having.
They look good.
That's a good group.
If you go nuts for tight butts,
you push.
Get pay-per-view today.
You just rode him backwards.
Just put him right on his back.
With Pat Summerall and John Madden.
That looked like it was the last shot out of the Roman candle.
The second annual male group orgy competition on pay-per-view.
Like to pack that guy around, too. Floyd? Yeah. He's going to fire into his guy right here.
Call 1-800-HEY-CUTIE to order today.
A naked man mingles freely in a locker room. It's the Onion Radio News. I'm Doyle Redland. Bally Total Fitness patron Fred Littman, age 42, took an after-shower stroll today, casually greeting numerous men in the locker room, his flaccid penis and talcum-powdered scrotum in plain view. He socialized for approximately 15 minutes in a state of total undress. The buck-naked Littman then went on to sit in the most visible spot in the locker room and apply antifungal cream to his feet before finally putting on a towel. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News.
Back to the Dad's Home Podcast, but first, more dad jokes.
My kids find me annoying. All children find their parents annoying, which is kind of ironic given children essentially ruin their parents' lives. Parents give their children their time, their energy, and their money, and we repay our parents with resentment. You ever see an adult get a phone call from one of their parents? You'd think it was a debt collector. It's my mom. Yeah, I know you took care of me for a quarter of a century, but now's not a good time. You know it wasn't a good time? Giving up my dreams. So you could be a general disappointment.
Back to episode number 308 of the Dad's Home Podcast. I'm Bauer. That is Chad the Dad. All right, so we got to get to some selections here, Chad. I hope you're ready to make some decisions. I hope you're feeling decisive right now.
Yeah,
unlike our parents in the 1980s. So I've got 4 possibilities for us.
All right.
To sort of encapsulate the parent post of the week, if you will. Are you ready to take a look at them?
Let's go. Bring it.
Right. Here we go. The number one, the first one we're going to look at here comes to us from Pagan Fran. 3-year-old, daddy shoots people. My husband, huh? 5-year-old, no, he gives them shots. My husband is the family medicine doctor. Daddy shoots people.
Daddy shoots people.
I mean,
there's another T-shirt right there.
It makes sense, right? I mean, he's giving shots, and it's easy to see how a 3-year-old could get kind of confused by that. I totally
shot being the past tense.
Absolutely,
kids paying attention in school.
Yeah. So there's our first entry. Second entry comes to us from Pie Guy. My son calls donuts happy bagels, and I will never refer to them as anything else now.
I mean, they are happy bagels.
Happy bagels, right? Come on, something good about that.
Yeah, happy stomach, happy bagels.
Yes, Pie Guy knows. How about this one from Bacon Popsicle, which I just love the name. My daughter just asked for nunchucks for her birthday, and I have to say I'm 50% proud, 30% amused, and 100% terrified.
I mean, there's some truth in there.
Those
Even though that
are,
math doesn't check out, yeah.
I was gonna say those are odd numbers to use, but it makes I feel like I could feel that way too. Especially if she's excited about the nunchucks, then that's really gonna get.
Dad, I watched a Bruce Lee movie, and I need some nunchucks for my birthday.
Right,
okay.
And then maybe Santa can bring me a ninja star. That'd be awesome too. This kind of falls in line. And then lastly, number 4, to the woman in Old Navy who just whispered, "Are you fucking kidding me?" to her toddler laying on the floor screaming, "I see you, I am you."
Oh shit. Parenting, the honesty.
I hate to go back to the.
What word do you use in place of fuck in front of your kids?
Oh, good question. I use the word fuck. So follow me for more parenting tips.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up! Fucking damn it! Oh, fucking damn it!
Yes. This one I feel like is like I get the donut happy bagel thing that works. I get that. I like that. The nunchucks is scary, but this one I think is the most relatable because even though not all of us have been in the woman's shoes who's whispering, "Are you fucking kidding me?" to the toddler. Like we've all said that at some point.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to our kids, it didn't have to be at Old Navy, didn't have to be while they're on the floor crying, but we've said that, we've felt that before. But we've all seen that too. We've all seen somebody else in that place, and we're like,
yeah. I see you, I am you. It is a parenting mantra.
It most certainly is. So do you feel like that's our winner for today?
But yeah, by a large margin. That is I see you, I am you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going with it too. I did like the ninja star. I mean, the nunchucks. Nunchucks was solid, but gonna pass on the nunchucks. Gonna go with the I see you, I am you. And again, just I imagine because every Old Navy looks the same on the inside, right? They got the concrete floor, and just seeing somebody kind of bend over and whisper, "Are you fucking kidding
You can
me?"
picture it. You can hear it, and you can picture it in your head. Absolutely.
And I've got all the different levels of drama that come with it, like the sheer exhaustion. Like, are you fucking kidding me? But then it also can be the drawn out, like, I've been trying to prevent, like, I tried to get you to eat lunch. You wouldn't eat anything. I knew there was going to be a low blood sugar. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you see every element of what that could be played out there in the Old Navy. And Mommy Needs a Life, thank you very much for encapsulating that for us here on the Dad's Home Podcast. It's chef's kiss.
It is.
All right. Speaking of chef's kiss, we've got 3.
Okay.
I had a 4th, but I want to. It was more of somebody commenting on a video. I'm going to try to find the original video.
Yes.
That's the part that I want to see. The commenting was good, and it did have some still shots to it, but I want to find the actual video, and that might be our last entry. So I'm going to try to do that for next week's show. But
a play-in, sure.
We've got we've got 3 that I want to take a look at here today and find out from you who you think worst parent possibility for 2025 may be. Yes. All right, here we go. Let's start with nappy time and our first entry to today's.
Look, it's a young couple passed out on the beach. Cops say they had too much to drink.
What's up, guys? Sheriff's office. Time to wake up.
But they don't budge. Beer cans are littered around them.
Yep, time to wake up, guys. Hey.
Even shaking them doesn't help.
The sheriff's office! Wake up!
Finally, the 2 arise from their drunken stupor. But this isn't just a case of knucklehead spring breakers on Daytona Beach. These are parents, and their 2 young kids are missing.
Do you guys have children with you?
Neither seems too concerned about the kids, so cops ask again.
Hey, where are your kids? Right there.
But the 5- and 7-year-olds are nowhere to be seen. The guy heads to the water's edge to take a look. It was a 911 caller who first alerted authorities.
The lady, I guess her boyfriend gave her like 4 shots and she passed out. And she has 2 little kids. Now they're both passed out and the kids are by themselves.
You don't know where they are?
Deputies place the couple in handcuffs and charge them with child neglect. Mom swears up a storm.
The cops here. So now we both go to jail.
Then the guy makes a really stupid move. He takes off, running with his hands cuffed behind his back. He doesn't get very far, face planting right into the sand and knocking himself out.
Call an ambulance.
Knocked him out. Brilliant.
That's the good part that gets me.
Brilliant.
Is that he's like, as if your dad was not bad enough that he got drunk and let you guys just go away. But then after Mom's handcuffed and put it, which they had to keep airbrushing her ass out because apparently, the thong was just riding there at the beach. They get her loaded. But did you notice that too? As the sheriff, because the sheriff's a kind-hearted individual, wants to make sure she's getting into the vehicle okay. As you see here, she's getting put in the vehicle. He's got his hand, or she's got her hand right on her ass as she's helping her get into the vehicle. Right there. It's all happening.
Sure, why not?
Spot. Yeah. So, hey, look, get it. Usually they like to put it on your head so you're not banging your head into the top of the truck. No, this woman's got to step up into a truck and she's pushing her with the ass into the vehicle. I just want to point that out here.
This screenshot here too, like I think even more telling than the cop's hand on the ass is the dude's tattoo on his chest.
Yes.
He's got a cross,
big old
Christian,
cross.
presumably.
Yeah.
And he's got, those are like baby footprints on his chest.
Yes.
So dad here is like, oh, you know what? I'm a good Christian and I love my child.
Right.
Yet here we are at the beach.
Right.
Drunk off our ass to pass out. And we let our kids wander off. And all of that. And then I'm wondering to myself, we were talking about the 80s. Perhaps are these time travelers? Did they come from the 80s? I'm asking for a friend. So.
I don't know that anybody in the 80s had the barefoot print tattoo.
Oh, good point. Okay, so that's you're right. Good. Yeah, you're good. Good eye.
90s, I would say even early Y2K was probably when that kind of made its popularity there.
Yeah, good eye. All right.
But again, you're right, because then his move is to let me show you what kind of a good Christian father I am by
He takes off, running with his hands cuffed behind his back. He doesn't get very far, face planting right into the sand and not
dumb ass.
All right, so that's entry number
one. Next. Is it going to get better than this?
Let's swipe right and see what happens in entry number 2. Here you see a family outdoors looking up at their roof while you see a toddler crawling its way down the roof. Look at that toddler. That's not even like a 5-year-old. Like that's maybe a 2 or 3-year-old child.
2
tops. Able to walk in a diaper down the side of the roof. No parent, by the way, notices. No, they're all waiting for the toddler to come to them. No one's running up to go to the roof to get the child. And again, the roof's the eave of the roof is hanging over the parent's head. Like it's not low, like it's at their chest or something, and they can just grab them off. They have to go get a ladder to be able to get this toddler off a chair to get the toddler off the roof with the tall guy going there. Like, come to daddy, let me grab you. How did you get on the roof in the first place? How did the toddler end up on the roof?
Conseguimos tirar o moleque de cima do telhado.
Oh, they saved him.
So, yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So, no judgment here, but clearly this is a different culture based on the language.
Right.
Maybe babies on the roof in that particular culture is good luck.
Oh,
you don't know.
I see what you're saying. You don't
know. Like, hey, look, everybody, there's a toddler on the roof. We're going to have 5 years of good luck.
Bringing life to your family in that home is the toddler walking down, scaling down the side of a roof.
Or maybe it's a tradition, right? When the child becomes 18 months old, you throw them up on the roof and see if they can walk down. Or if they can,
if they stay,
they live.
Yes, if they stay up there, they're going to live a normal, healthy life. If they die,
fall
they fall off and die and break their neck. Well, that was just meant to be. They weren't survival of the fittest.
Okay.
Let's get to speaking of survival of the fittest. Let's get to number 3 here. Again, as parents, we've all had wagons. Even I had one of the radio flyer wagons growing up when I was a kid. And my brother and I
have one that we haul shit to the softball field with.
Yes. We used to push each other around in that wagon, going down our driveway, not very far at all.
Luge,
that's
playing Olympics.
Kind of the same as this, down a giant hill where the kids are in the wagon, dad's videoing. Watch out for that tree. What tree? Oh, this one right here. Boom.
Oh my god.
Now I will highlight this now. Chad, just listen. Try not to laugh over when you hear the crash. Listen to the dad's laugh. And again, I'll just point this out for everybody who's ever heard us talk about this. There is not a moment dad is running over to help these kids even after they smash. No. They're coming down a gigantic hill at a park in a runaway collapsible wagon. Not even a good old-fashioned radio flyer made of steel. This is a collapsible.
That is not legit. That's the same one that we haul shit to the softball fields in.
Listen. Dad's laugh at the end there.
Okay, so okay. Did the kids die? This is my first question. Did the kids die?
Nope,
okay,
so I don't believe so. I think that'd be a different video we'd be watching right now.
This one is truly comedy gold, though. Like, okay, there's a lot of dumb assery happening in this video for sure.
Yeah.
However, like a couple of good things happen. One, they haul ass down this thing. There is a road that they go over that slows their cart down, so they're not going at maximum velocity when they hit this tree.
Right
like,
here, they
take right here.
There's like a little
what tree?
It's like it's like the road, the gravel road is up above. It's a little lifted, so they have to hit this bump like the Dukes of Hazzard first, and then like they're jumping over a creek in Hazard County. They start to go over this thing, and then that's when they land on the other side and boom, hit the tree.
Yeah,
and then the thing just goes upends, and then Dad laughs.
I mean, Dad, look. I mean, call me evil, but Dad's not wrong laughing at that. That's funny as shit.
But look at this. I will just say this. Look at these kids. Yeah, there's the one in the front is little.
Yeah. They're 4, 5. I don't know.
Maybe. Like I could be convinced the one in the middle might be. The one in the back might be 4. This could be like a 3 and 4 year old.
The other thing I love about this too, and I'm not sure if they're holding in the bar that you haul the cart around with.
Yeah, the handle. Yeah,
I'm not sure if they're thinking that that's something they can actually steer with, or they know or they know if they let go, it's going to then catapult the cart, right? Because it'll fall down, the cart will stop suddenly, and out they go. I don't. That's
now look. In the good old days, when I had my radio flyer, the steel radio flyer that actually had like rubber tires on it.
It did, and
you could turn. You could turn with that handle. You could use it to go left or right or whatever you wanted. If you made a real quick turn, you could flip right over.
Right, sure. You would have missed the tree, is what you're saying. You would have steered it.
Well, again, I didn't really. I'm thinking at 3 years old, I wasn't really the best driver coming down the hill at what appears to be a good solid 20 miles an hour. On a very heightened grass hill with a lot of bumps, and then you're going straight into a tree. So I don't know that I would have been able to avoid said tree. I'd like to think I could, but I'm not that skilled a driver. But in this particular case, it didn't matter that they were holding that handle because that handle's not doing anything. The wheels are all wobbly to begin with. That thing's going, it's got a mind of its own, frankly.
It does. It absolutely does.
And again, when the kids do crash, they hit the road, boom, like the Dukes of Hazzard, and then crash into the tree, Dad is not running over to see if they're okay. Dad isn't for a second. Like, did Junior in the front separate his
break
shoulder?
His arm?
Right.
Yeah, break his arm. Well, do we know?
Did he get a laceration over his eye? We have no idea. I mean, he did go he went ass over Sunday in the when the wagon hit the tree, the back end went up because of course he front weighed it, like the heavier kid was right towards the front. Nobody was so
I gotta say though, of these 3, I do have a definite like you suck the most parent.
You do. You feel like you have a clear-cut indication of which one of these would be the worst parent of 2025 of these 3.
For me, it would be the 80s time traveler in the first video, like that guy, and his girlfriend.
Call an ambulance, please.
Yeah, that guy. Call an ambulance.
Was it the
drunk?
Because here's the thing: by the end of that Inside Edition story, we still don't know where the kids are. We have
we don't.
We know that
That's
they're okay.
Well, presumably they are. We don't know. They still could be missing.
That's a
they
good
could
point.
be on a milk carton right now, for all we know.
They could be a part of Epstein's island. I don't know. But here's the thing: the part that gets me is that he, like, after she yells at him, like, we're going to get arrested now. His thought process is,
I'm too drunk to get arrested.
I can't let both of my kids not have both of their parents. I've got to make a break for it.
Deputies placed the couple in handcuffs and charged them with child neglect. Mom swears up a storm.
The cops here. So now we both go to jail.
Like she's blaming it on him. Like she had nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah.
She had zero to do with it, and then she gets lifted by her.
Then the guy makes a really stupid move. He takes off, running with his hands cuffed behind his back. He doesn't get very far, face planting right into the sand and knocking himself out.
That's just poor decision making on both of their parts. The fact that they're both now basically probably putting their kids into literally child protective services, right? They're probably going to go in there for a while because both of them are now going to have all this shit to deal with. That's a mess. Those are some shitty parents.
I would say that it would be a great commercial for birth control right there. Second of all,
show this in high schools.
That's
everywhere.
all you need to see. That's all. The guy with the tattoo and the woman with the bikini and how she's yelling at him and cursing.
Yeah.
Like all of that is just like that's a great birth control thing right there. Secondly, even the sheriff ran after this dude to see if he was okay. Like once he did a faceplant, he still went over to see if he was okay. The fucking kids who ran head down into a tree after going down a hill at 25 miles an hour, Dad just laughed at them. So I hear what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you that these are, I mean, they still, again, those kids.
Look, if we have a split vote here, we can enter them both in and let them fight it out.
I do feel like these are the bigger assholes. I do feel like these parents are the ones that are jeopardized, and I mean that on a historic, like since the kids were born till probably they get to therapy later on. This is going to be a more severe parenting for the kids that they're going to have to deal with. Than the other guy. The other guy, they're just everybody's going to be like, remember that time Dad ran us into the tree?
Yeah, and even the kid on the roof. I mean, that kid's probably not going to remember that they were walking the roof. So no damage, no harm, no
thank
foul.
God there's video that will last forever on the internet.
Right?
But,
Yeah, it's like
But in this case, Dad ran away, a drunk idiot, and fell and knocked himself out trying to get away from authorities while he was drunk. So I'm going to say all of that living on Inside Edition is what locks the vote up for you when it comes to the
chicken dinner
entry for the 2025 Worst Parent of the Year award by far. Congratulations to
good job, buddy.
I'm gonna call this guy. I mean, it's just my go-to name. I'm gonna call him Hunter. He looks like a hunter, doesn't he?
He does. Is that is that like a Tanya? I don't know. Tanya, Hunter.
Brittany. There's no more. There's the Tanyas aren't made anymore.
Brittany, you're right. Good point.
Brittany's. So I'm gonna say that's Hunter
Brittany
and
Hunter.
Yeah, that's the couple that passed out on the beach. With clearly after getting wonderful tattoos at some point in time, they weren't matching necessarily, but the passing out on the beach part. Did you notice the sheriff had to check the pulse to make sure they were still breathing? He was still breathing before they tried to wake him up.
I love it. Did he kill himself?
Yeah, right. Well, so there you go. We have our answer. We now know who at least in this particular week, who the worst parent is going to be going into and facing off against some pretty stiff competition for our worst parent of 2025. I think we'll have one more coming up this next week. So it's gonna be very important for us to recognize who's going to be able to fight in that play-in kind of a situation. It'll be a very important vote for us, Chad, coming into this next week.
It will. Absolutely.
And if you've got any suggestions for bad parents that you think we should see, that should be included in at least the voting process, please feel free to reach out to us. The Dad's Home Podcast, you can find us at realguyradio.com. That's one way about it. You can also hit us up on Twitter at realguypods. Those are the two ways that are easiest for you to get a hold of us. And then we're working on our Substack, so you'll be able to reach out to us there as well. But I would have to say a very, very solid selection process today. And I think, these are going to get harder to vote pretty soon, Chad. We're going to have some really drastic voting that needs to be done. So it was good to see where we ended up on kind of opposite sides of this and then came to a conclusion. Can't see that happening in DC these days, but everywhere else here on the Dad's Home Podcast, you can. For myself and for Mr. Chad, until next week, see ya.
Keeper of my soul, I know sometimes I'm out of control.
Then the guy makes a really stupid move. He takes off, running with his hands cuffed behind his back. He doesn't get very far, face planting right into the sand and knocking himself out.
Call an ambulance, please.